So Anthony, I'm going to describe how I got the step size to increase to double. When you go to the settings on a slider, so I'm going to right click and again, when you look at this file, it's best to be in computer view. I'm going to go to settings. The step size, you can't enter an expression. It has to be a value. But there is a way around that. So what I'm going to do is, what I wanted to do is I'm going to go back to your spreadsheet here and notice again I'm kind of hide it by clicking on the divider, and I can kind of put it out of view. But I'm going to click on the command line for your uh, your spreadsheet, and notice that instead of n now it shows um, a variable called slider. Now what that is it's a variable that's doing some calculating. So when I click on the slider I have here, it's just going to increment from 1 to 2, and you can see the sample size is doubling. Now the way that's happening is that there's a variable doing a calculation called slider that is doubling the current value of x. So what I did is I put in a notes page. So I inserted a notes page, so just like that. And I wanted to insert a math box, which you can use the insert menu in or you can just do Control M. So Control M, and I created a slider or a variable. Colon equals means I'm going to define it. I'm going to set it equal to something, and I made it equal to. I made the initial sample size 5 times 2, so it doubles to the exponent of, and then this is where I used the value of the actual slider I made, which is here x. So I made that equal to, in my actual math box, I made that equal to x minus 1. So it looks just like a nice geometric equation. So 5 is my initial value, 2 is my rate of growth, that doubling we want to see in the sample size, and it's going to go up by x minus 1. So what happens is when I created the slider, and I just making it go from 1 up to I think 10 or 11, what happens when that changes, this calculates. Okay, so I'm going to move it, maybe start it at 1 or move it down to 4. You can see this does a calculation. Okay, so now that this is doing some calculation for me, that's what I want to use to generate my sample size in the spreadsheet. And so I changed what you had in your spreadsheet to, instead of n, I made it equal to that math box called slider, which is doing the calculating. Okay, so that's the workaround that I came up with for making the step size go up or double. Now to get this to appear, to get the sample size to appear, obviously we don't just want to see x equals 4, we want to actually see the sample size. So what I did is I inserted some text in here. So this is a geometry page up top. So I inserted some text, okay, and all I did was I typed in the letter A, okay. I right clicked on it and I said calculate the value of A. Okay, so notice it's saying select what you want A to be. What do you want to so in other words, I'm going to calculate this formula A, but I got to pick out what number is it going to use. Well, ideally I wanted to use the sample size. I wanted to show me the sample size, and what I did was I pressed variable, and there's the slider value. Remember, the one that's doing all the calculating? And there it is. There's the number 40. So now when I move x equals 4, that now changes as well. Now I've already got that up there, so I'm going to delete this away. And then once I got the 40 up, I created another text box, put sample size, so actions, sample size. I don't know if I could put in a space. I don't think I can. And then equals. Oh, it did. Okay, so I could do that. So once I got that, I attached the 40, so remember I'm going to do that again. So I calculate A, I press variable button, calculate A for the slider. So these two things are separate, but you can attach them together. It's almost like grouping. So I right clicked on the 40 and there's an attach option, and notice it shows me some anchors around the sample size text box. I want to attach it to the right, and there we go. So now that's one single piece of text. And so that's how I got all those pieces to work. Now again, this doesn't show the mean or the median, unfortunately, but it does get you that workaround that you were asking for. I could get the graphs page to kind of do to finish this up. I would hide A. I don't you don't the kids don't need to see that. So the only thing that I would make visible, of course, is the slider and then the sample size, and then I'd fiddle with this and make sure that it looks good in handheld view. So make sure that that all is looking good. And notice again, I've moved the listen spreadsheet as far over to the right. I can maybe move this divider up a bit to give my page a little bit more. It's a little cramped, and there we have it. It's all working. Now notice that it stops at 10,200, so I'll let you kind of fiddle with that. You can play around with either the formula that's calculating that slider value that controls our sample size. So you can, or you can just change the settings. You can just right click on your slider and decrease the maximum to just 11 so that it always spits out a sample.